Hello everybody and welcome to a video on the Constructive Criticism YouTube channel, or if you're listening at home on podcast form, this is a deck tech from Constructive Criticism. Today we're going to be talking about a deck that I worked on a little bit with my co-host Matt Kling, that now I went I think 13 and 2 with, a bunch of it on ladder, and I'm excited to kind of talk about a deck that is in fact a food deck. But it's a little bit different than the food decks that you're used to. Before we do that, don't forget to check out our sponsors over at puremtgo.com. It means the world to us. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button. It really does help out, as well as hitting that subscribe button. And, share the deck tech. If this is a deck that you found cool or awesome, sharing it is the best way to support the content. So let's get right into this. We're going to pull up our elemental food deck. That's right. We're playing elemental food. So, I had come up with a couple names for this deck: spicy food, hungry elementals, stuff like that. But basically, let's read the deck lists and kind of go over why it's a food deck. So we have 4 Gilded Goose, 2 Hydroid Krasis, 4 Leafkin Druid, 1 Voracious Hydra, 4 Risen Reef, 4 Omnath Locust of the Royal, 2 Wicked Wolf, 3 Cavalier of Thorns, 4 Oko Crown of Thieves, 2 Tamiyo Collector of Tales, 1 Nissa Who Shakes the World, 1 Chandra Awakened Inferno, 2 Lava Coil. We have 26 lands in the form of 4 Breeding Pool, 3 Fable Passage, 6 Forests, 1 Island, 2 Mountain, 2 Steam Vents, 4 Stomping Grounds, and 4 Temple of Mystery. The sideboard is 2 Red Cap Melee, 3 Veil of Summer, 2 Ether Gust, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 1 more Hydroid Krasis, 2 Flame Sweep, 1 Thrashing Brontodon, and 2 Shifting Ceratops. So, this deck is really fun. Obviously, this is the kind of deck that I enjoy, so I'm really excited to get to talk about it. The mana in this deck is really good. I do wonder if the deck is playing one too many lands. I think you could probably get away with playing 25 lands when you have 4 Gilded Goose, 4 Leafkin Druid, and 4 Risen Reef. And 4 Cavalier of Thorns. And if you were to cut a land, I think you could totally add one of those Hydro Krasis from the sideboard to the main, and probably get away with kind of making your sideboard a little bit more, adding diversity to your sideboard, maybe adding another removal spell or something like that. Outside of that, the mana's really good. The most important land of the deck is probably Fable Passage. It's kind of the thing that makes 3-color mana bases work in this format, and it's really important in this deck, and pretty good in this deck because of Omnath. Because you can trigger Omnath twice in one turn with it. You get to draw 2 cards a turn when you draw a fetch land. That's really powerful, and something to definitely think about when you're playing this card. Also, it comes into play untapped on turn 4, which is really good with Tamiyo. It's really good with all of your more expensive spells, whether it's a Wicked Wolf, Cavalier of Thorns. You're often going to have early mana to do extra things. But you also have to recognize that it also means it's a tap land in a deck with Gilded Goose. That's one of the reasons that the deck is, in fact, playing 14 turn 1 green sources. It's actually a little bit short, which I think is why we ended up on 26 lands. But overall, I think the mana is decent. I haven't had a ton of mana problems. There's only 2 Steam Vents in the deck, so there's not a ton of lands that don't produce green mana. The main deck is pretty typical. It's almost like 2 decks put together. The way that you win with this deck is by grinding your opponent out for the most part. What you're really trying to do is, have the best long game in the form of Risen Reef from your opponent, and then once you have a Risen Reef plus Omnath in play later in the game, it's usually game over for your opponent if they don't, break up that synergy, because you start drawing cards with Risen Reef, you draw more elementals, maybe you draw a second Risen Reef. Risen Reef puts lands into play for Omnath to draw more cards, and the engine just gets going and it gets out of hand. If things get in the way, you can easily take care of them with something like Oko or Chandra. Tamiyo lets you get back the pieces of your synergy. So the deck is just really, really good at grinding. If you played Elementals last season, you'll know that this deck has capability to win on pretty aggressive mulligans. And the other thing that this deck gets to do differently than it might have been doing before is you get to play a 1-mana creature that ramps you in the form of Gilded Goose. So now you have Gilded Goose into Oko or Gilded Goose into Risen Reef, depending on what your hand looks like. Obviously, I typically tell people that they should be leading on Gilded Goose into Oko if they have the choice, so that you can continue to make mana. Other than that, I think that playing a turn 2 Risen Reef on the play is going to result in a lot of game wins, especially if you have something like a Leafkin Druid or another Risen Reef the next turn to kind of back it up and just get your engine going. The key card in the deck is Gilded Goose Oko. I think that, just turn 2 Oko is one of the most powerful things you can be doing in Standard, and there's really not a reason that this deck can't be one of the decks that does it. And that was kind of my first thought with this deck is, how do I get a really solid engine like this, and also get to play the most powerful things, and that's kind of where we came up with, well, why not just put this in Elementals? I think that Oko is more interesting in this deck. The 3/3 certainly can be large. Luckily, you have Wicked Wolf and Voracious Hydra and Omnath and like Lava Quill, so you have like a lot of ways to remove the 3/3 if you need to turn their stuff into a 3/3. But also, you can just turn your stuff into a 3/3. You're probably not going to do that on a Risen Reef, but you might do that on some of your other cards. I'd say the next most important card is probably Risen Reef and Omnath. I think that, like we said, that synergy is going to do most of the work in your deck. The thing is like Cavalier of Thorns plus Tameo has great synergy, right? So the deck is full of a lot of synergy-based interactions, but I think that it all kind of fits together really well. I haven't had a ton of mana problems. You don't really see games where you can't go off very often. And, it's a little bit harder to flood in this deck because you draw so many extra cards with Omnath's ability and things like that. Temple of Mystery, puts things on the bottom of your deck. Tameo just gets you a bunch of cards and the cards you need. It's really hard not to both have something to do with your mana in this deck and also, be able to find the pieces that you're looking for. The sideboard is still a work in progress, I would say. I think that there's a lot of things, like we said. I don't know how good Shifting Ceratops is right now, for example. I'm not sure if something like Negate makes a lot more sense in this deck. Being able to protect your pieces might actually be more important than putting the beat down on. One thing that this deck does have a really bad matchup against, and one of the reasons the Shifting Ceratops is in the deck, is actually if you play on ladder and ever play against the Flash deck, you're in pretty big trouble. But there's not a ton of that right now, so you could consider just not playing Shifting Ceratops. I don't think it's that good against, things like the Fires deck and things like that. So you could certainly play Negate in that slot, and I think be totally fine. Other than that, I don't really have a definitive guide for the sideboard. I think Red Cat Melee is kind of an upgrade for the deck and something that I've been really happy to play. Even sacrificing a permanent in this deck just isn't that big of a deal, and it's obviously very, very good against the red decks. So I've been happy with this deck. One thing that I will say that you should remember to do is kind of understanding how to play your Wicked Wolves. Wicked Wolf is one that I was playing 3 for a long time. I went down to 2 of them. I found myself sideboarding it out a lot. It is important that you understand what to do against other Gilded Goose decks. Being on the play and having both Omnath and Wicked Wolf, lava coils and things like that to take care of the other goose is going to be really important in those mirror matches, and it's going to lead to you winning the majority of your mirror matches because your deck has so much more potential to grind out games and kind of pull ahead. The other thing is this deck is pretty good from coming from behind just because of Risen Reef. If you are fall behind with Risen Reef, it's okay because once you play the second one, you start to go off, or you play an Omnath and start to go off. It's really good at like just having these huge swings to pull you back into the place where you can win the game. So overall, I really love this deck. If this is a deck that you're interested in, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Hungry Elementals, spicy food. Give it a name. What would you call this deck? It's really fun, something that I definitely recommend checking out if you're kind of want to win the mirror. I think one of the things that you might have to worry about is Sultai Food. I think that I haven't had a great matchup against that deck specifically, but against Simic Food and against Bant Food, it's totally been fine. And it's a deck that I would definitely recommend checking out. So thank you everybody so much for watching. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the deck. And don't forget to hit that like and sub button. If you're listening at home, I hope this was helpful. And we'll see everybody next week with another video on the Constructive Criticism YouTube channel. Hey everybody, just a quick thank you for watching the video. Just a friendly reminder, if you're listening on Facebook or watching on Pure MTG or wherever, don't forget that we are partnering with Oasis Games to do an Arena Invitational series for our Discord. So it's free $500 prizes to the participants. It's going to be an awesome tournament series over on Arena that we're throwing for our Discord members. If you're not a part of the Discord, don't forget to check out the link to the Discord. Wherever you are, it should be below. And yeah, it's really cool to work with Oasis on this. As somebody that comes from Utah, we don't get a ton of events out here, so I wanted to do something that gives to everyone across the Magic community, and I hope that we can make this super awesome and super fun for you to participate in. I believe the first one is going to be on the 23rd of November, but watch the video over on the YouTube channel for all of the information, and I look forward to seeing everybody there. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, we'll see you guys all next time.